kids. Welcome to Mystery Island, where we will be tracking down the one true God. Yo-ho! Good try, Captain Crispy, but you do not scare me.
Narg!
No, if you want a scary pirate, then we need to talk about the scariest of them all.
Who would that be? Long John Silver?
No, Blackbeard.
Blackbeard. Was that really somebody's name?
Well, we're not sure what his real name was, but it was probably Edward Thatch. This guy grew up in England in a wealthy family, but he veered off course in life and became a pirate. The scariest pirate ever. He would put slow-burning fuses in his hair when he went into battle that would give off smoke and sparks. And he would tie ribbons in his huge beard that was said to go up almost to his eyes.
Shiver me timbers! He must have scared a lot of people.
Yeah, he did, but he was only a pirate for 2 years, and then he was captured. You know, Blackbeard thought he needed silver and gold, but do you know what he really needed, Captain Crispy? He really needed God. Pirates come in all shapes and sizes, but they need the same thing just like each one of us, the one true God. This week, we will be discovering the one true God and what he is like. We will be blown away to see how great he is. Now, let's sing a song.
Indeed, let's sing a song.
Mystery Island, a place of discovery, a place for you and me.
Way out in the ocean, rising up above the sea, is a land of wonder, is a land of mystery. Mystery Island, hoo-ha, Mystery Island, hoo. So much to discover, so much for us to see. God's truth never failing, all the way through history. Mystery Island, hoo-ha, Mystery Island, hoo. There's a place you gotta see, a land of discovery. It's Mystery Island, Mystery Island. Searching for the ancient truth, handed down to me and you. Mystery Island, come on, won't you come along with me? On a search through the island for the clues hidden all around. Our God is a treasure, just waiting to be found. Mystery Island, hoo-ha, Mystery Island, hoo. Mystery Island, hoo-ha, Mystery Island. There's a place you gotta see, a land of discovery. It's Mystery Island, Mystery Island. Searching for the ancient truth, handed down to me and you. Mystery Island, come on, won't you come along with me?
Mystery Island, it's a place for you and me. Ready for discovery? The deeper you dig, the more you will find. Cause that's how it works on Mystery Island. The path is narrow, so stay on track. But the treasure is yours if you follow the map. God is faithful, God is strong. I can sing of his love all the day long. God is powerful, holy and true. I'm ready for mystery, how about
There's a
you?
place you gotta see, a land of discovery. It's Mystery Island,
It's Mystery Island.
Mystery Island. Searching for the ancient truth, handed down to me and you. Mystery Island,
It's Mystery Island.
Mystery
It's a place for you
Island.
and me.
There's a place you gotta see, a land of discovery. It's Mystery Island,
It's Mystery Island.
Mystery Island. Searching for the ancient truth.
It's a place of discovery. It's a place for you and me. Won't you come along with me?
Won't you come along with me? Mystery Island, hoo-ha, Mystery Island, hoo.
Good morning and welcome to Mystery Island Science Lab. I'm so glad y'all are watching and have really looked forward to this with a lot of anticipation. Before you start or pull out any items, make sure you ask your parents' permission before you get any of this stuff out of the kitchen or wherever you might get it out of your home. So I want to remind you that each day. Today in our science lab, we're going to talk about density. Now, density is one way of saying how heavy something is. The formula for density for you older kids is density equals mass over volume. So if we're considering how dense is an object or substance, you can see this would be less dense, this one would be more dense. So today we're going to look at quite a few different items and determine the density. We're also looking at two different types of water in determining the density there too. So you see we have fresh water and salty water. The way I prepped that was you get about 3/4 of a cup of water in one cup and 3/4 of water in another cup. You warm the water. I used this measuring cup because if you put a plastic cup in the microwave, it would melt. So we warmed water, and then I added 2 tablespoons of salt into my water to make it salty. All right, so if you've ever been swimming, I want you to think about, did you swim in salt water or did you swim in fresh water? Maybe if you swam in a pool, that would be a type of fresh water, right? If you swam in the ocean, that's salt water. One is more dense than the other. Even if you're guessing, I want you to think with me for a few more minutes. So, which water do we drink? Do we drink fresh or salty? I hope you drink fresh water. And fresh water, we use it for a lot of things, right? Brushing our teeth, watering our grass. I don't think you would want to use salt water for either of those things. But salt water is also very helpful too. When you think about the ocean, there's a whole lot, I would even say billions of sea creatures that salt water provides a home for. And it's also useful for the water cycle. I hope you remember that super fun song from last year, the water cycle. It talked about evaporation, condensation, precipitation. So salt water is useful. It's in the ocean and it helps our rain and water cycle. Okay, so see the 2 containers that we have, and I want you to see the items on your right. We have rocks, cereal, grapes, apples, rubber bands, bobby pins, and boiled eggs. Now, I didn't test this out to see the difference in a boiled egg and a raw egg. Maybe that would be something else you might consider doing, but this is a boiled egg. So if you want to kind of test your guessing skills to see if you can figure out which of these items is most dense, you could write out on a piece of paper. Across the top, you could label fresh and salty, and then down the paper, you could write down the names of all of these items. You could guess which ones you think were more dense. I want you to ask yourself, will it sink or will it float? All right, let's get started. I'm going to start with, if you were here in person, I would let you pick. But I think I'll start with the cereal. Now, maybe you know what that's going to do because you floated cereal in milk before, right? If you leave it too long, it might sink. But easy, both of those float. Can you see that? If I let it sit for a while, why do you think that cereal would sink? Because it becomes more dense. It would absorb the water, and so it would become more dense, and it would sink to the bottom. All right, you see both of those float. I'm going to put those to the side. All right, next, I'm going to go to the grapes. So we'll start with the fresh water, up, straight to the bottom, and now to the salty water. And it actually floats. Can you see the difference? So the salty water is more dense, and it's pushing the grape to the top. The fresh water is less dense, so the grape sinks to the bottom. Does that make sense? So look at the 2 things we have here, fresh water and a grape. The grape is more dense than the fresh water. And then look at the right side, the salty water. The grape is less dense than the salty water, so it floats. I wonder if you guessed that correctly. All right, how about the apple? What do you think it might do? Here's the apple into the fresh water, floating. Apple into the salty water, also floating. You might notice a pattern here. If it floats in the fresh water, will it float in the salty water? Absolutely, because that salty water is more dense than the fresh water. I sure wish I knew how many of you were guessing this correctly. Okay, rubber bands. Fresh water, floating, salty water. What must it do? It must float. 3 more items to go. Maybe this will be a little easier for you. What do you think will happen? Bobby pins. Sink and sink. The bobby pins are very dense. Even though they're small, they're dense. The molecules are packed tightly, as in that cube on the right. All right, what about a rock? Dense or not so dense? Very dense. It sinks right away. And I'm going to, for our last item, put this on a towel. Why? Because you can see that egg is going to displace some water for sure. So it will make a little bit of a mess here. Maybe you should always have some towels on standby if you're trying this too. All right, so the egg in the fresh water. Did it go to the bottom? I think so. And the egg in the salty water floated. Maybe you're remembering with me. I don't know how many items I can fit in here all at once, but the grape and the egg sunk in the fresh water, floated in the salty water. So there's a good demonstration of density. I wonder how many of you guessed these correctly, and I want you to think, sometimes in life, we ask questions and we don't know the answer to them, right? Like, some things we can explain, and some things we just can't explain. But the Bible makes it clear that God is bigger than all of our unanswered questions. So, as you consider Jonah with Miss Allison today, I want you to think about this. Jeremiah 32:27 says, "Behold," let me back up to verse 26. It says, "Then the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, saying, Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too difficult for me?" So I want you to consider that passage. If you ever come across something that seems challenging to consider, or maybe just a hard day in your life, you can always ask God. He knows the answer to every question, has the solution to every problem that we might have. Jeremiah 32:27. We can trust Him. He is good. He is wise. I hope you enjoyed today's science lesson. See you next time.
Welcome, boys and girls. This is day 1 of your Vacation Bible School crafts, Mystery Island. I'm Juju, this is Evie, and we are on an adventure, and today we're going to do a sand craft. So let's get started, Evie, okay?
Okay.
I think I need my eye, so I'm going to remove my patch. You will receive in your little bag from Lagos Baptist Church 3 crafts. The first craft is a sand craft. So let's let Evie show us how to do our sand craft today. I recommend that you get a piece of wax paper and put it on your countertop or table at home. Open up the little sand that comes inside, and you get several different colors. So we're going to open up and put in little stacks. Don't mix them now. Let them all be separate. And Evie, you will peel off one of the designs. It doesn't matter which one you want to start with. I did start with my heart, but you can start with anything you want to. So as you're peeling that off, I will finish unloading the sand. You know, islands have sand, and this is Mystery Island, so we're doing a sand art. All right, so Evie has torn off the heart. So Evie, just take the paper and just dip it down on top of the sand to make it adhere to it. There you go. See, she's having to press it several times. Show them what it's looking like. All right, now peel off another little section. That girl needs some fingernails. Yeah. There you go, and just put it on another color. There you go. Good. And let's do one more. So you get the idea. You're peeling off parts at a time. Don't peel off it all at one time, or it won't work that way. So peeling off one little section at a time, dip it in your sand, and you might have to from time to time shake a little bit off. But it makes a beautiful mosaic cross with the heart in the center, because Jesus is the center of our cross.
Welcome to Mystery Island. My name is Miss Allison, also known as Captain Crispy, Mother, and Nana. I have brought a friend with me to meet you. Her name is Sunny, and she is a moose. She often comes with me to the Sparky Club to sing happy birthday to the clubbers on their birthday. I also come because I love to hear the Bible stories that you tell to the boys and girls. Hi, boys and girls. Our Bible story today is one of my very favorite stories from the Old Testament, from the book of Jonah. The story starts with God telling Jonah to go to Nineveh. Nineveh is a big city filled with lots of people. Some evil and cruel people, the Bible tells us, that they worshiped idols and not the true God. God had seen their evil ways and had sent Jonah to tell them the truth about God. Jonah was supposed to go and tell them that God's judgment was coming. So God sends Jonah this way to Nineveh. But Jonah did not want to go there. He decided, I don't want to go there. I don't like the people there. So instead, he went this way to Tarshish. He went down to a dock, he paid the fare, and he got on a boat to go to Tarshish. Now, boys and girls, Tarshish was 3,000 miles away from Nineveh and away from God. Well, the boat started out fine, but somewhere in the sea voyage, God sent a big wind and a huge storm on the seas. Imagine this. The wind was blowing, the waves were rocking, the boat began to rock, but so badly that the boat was on the verge of breaking up. Imagine being a sailor on that boat. They were very, very afraid. Now, these were experienced sailors. They had sailed before in bad storms, but they had never seen a storm as big as this one. The Bible tells us 3 things about the sailors. They were afraid they were going to drown. They called out to their gods. And then they did something unusual. They started to throw all the cargo and all the supplies off the boat to lighten it and to help the boat stay afloat. This would have been a last measure, as the sailors would have had to pay for all the stuff that they threw overboard when they got to port. So this indicates they were very, very afraid. During this whole time up on top of the deck, where do you think Jonah was? What do you think he was doing? Was he reading a book? Was he writing his mother a letter? Was he playing solitaire with cards? No. He was asleep. The Bible tells us he was sound asleep in the bottom of the boat. The captain of the ship went down there and said, "Get up, call upon your God so that we do not drown." You see, the sailors had figured out that the storm had come about because Jonah was trying to run away. The sailors were correct. Jonah knew that God had sent the storm because he was running away from God. You cannot run away from God, can you, boys and girls? He always knows where you are. So Jonah tells the frightened, wet sailors, I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. And they ask him, what have you done that was so bad that God sent this storm upon us? Jonah tells them, I was running away from my assignment God gave me to do to go to Nineveh. So the sailors ask Jonah, what can we do to you that the sea will calm down for us? Jonah tells them, pick me up and toss me into the sea, and it will calm down for you. The sailors don't want to do that. But they finally grab Jonah, pick him up, and toss him into the sea, just like in this picture. Kerplunk! As soon as Jonah hit the water, the storm stopped. The sea calmed. The wind stilled. Calm. Well, guess what happened to Jonah? He was probably going down, down, down to the floor of the sea, thinking, I am going to die. But God sent a big fish to swallow Jonah. And it did. Can you imagine being swallowed by a big fish and being in the belly of the big fish for 3 days and 3 nights? Well, that's where Jonah was being kept safe, in the dark, cold, wet, slimy tummy of the big fish. Do you think God knew Jonah was there? Yes, indeed, God did know, because God knows everything all the time. And he is even with us all the time. All the time, he is with us and he knows where we are. If you are hiding under your bed, God knows and he is with you. If you are making a big sandcastle at the beach, God knows and he is with you. If you are at school or you are schooling at your home, God knows and is there too. Wherever you are, God knows and is there. So, back to the story. The Bible tells us that Jonah prayed to God from the belly of the big fish. No doubt Jonah realizes he was wrong to run away from God. Jonah finishes his prayer by saying, salvation is from you, God. God heard all of Jonah's prayers from the belly of the fish, and he then commands the big fish to vomit Jonah right back up onto the shoreline. Again, a second time, God tells Jonah to go to Nineveh, and this time he obeys. He preaches the word of God to the people. The city repents and are saved from the judgment of God. Yay! Our God is so powerful that a fish does exactly what he wants him to do. God can start a storm. God can finish a storm. God can cause a big fish to swallow up Jonah in one gulp, and God can command the big fish to throw him back up on the shoreline exactly where he needs to be. I have a few questions for you, boys and girls, and Sonny wants to answer them with you. Let me ask you them. Is it too hard for God to see in the dark? What do you think? What do you think? Is it too hard for God to start a storm and then stop a storm quickly? What do you think, boys and girls? Is it too hard for God to make a star or a planet in the heavens? What do you think, boys and girls? And is it too hard for God to bring Jesus, his son, back to life? No, there is nothing too hard for God. As the Bible tells us, God is almighty. He has all power. He is our amazing, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present God. And the great news is he is also kind, he is also loving, and he cares about you and me, and you too, Sonny. He always uses his power for good. Now that is good news, isn't it, Sonny? Good news for you, good news for me, good news for the boys and girls that God loves us and God cares for us.
You form the planets, you spin around. You know my words before I make a sound. You move the mountain and calm the sea. And just like Jonah, you rescued me. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God. You are powerful and true. You will always see me through. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God. You make the sun rise, you bring the rain. You knew my heart before I knew my name. You're right beside me and all around. You go before me, you're left, right, up and down. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God. You are powerful and true. You will always see me through. Mighty, mighty is our God. 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 You are powerful and true. You will always see me through. Mighty, mighty is our God. 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 You are powerful and true. You will always see me through. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God. Mighty, mighty is our God.
It's creature feature time. Every day we will be exploring a different animal that God has created. Let's get started. Today's animal is Camo the chameleon. Have you ever seen a chameleon?
Look this way. Now look that way. Now have one of your eyes look this way and one that way. Did you try it? It's impossible, right? Humans cannot do that, but chameleons can. God gave chameleons special eyes that can move in different directions at the same time. A chameleon can basically see 360 degrees around itself at any moment. That trait helps the chameleon be able to hunt for tasty flies. It also alerts if a hungry bird is near that might want the chameleon for his supper.
Now, try this. Stick out your tongue and see how far it goes. Did you do it? God gave chameleons a long, sticky tongue. Chameleons' tongues are longer than its entire body, and they're all rolled up accordion style inside their mouths. Imagine if your tongue was longer than your whole body. Now, let's try something else. Let's see how fast you can stick your tongue out of your mouth and get it back in your mouth. See how fast you can do it. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Bloop. A chameleon's tongue is so quick that it's able to start off and go so fast as a fighter jet can take off. This speed allows the chameleon to catch that fly on the next branch. God also gave it a sticky part at the end of its tongue to capture the fly. God thought of everything when he designed the chameleon's tongue.
Now, I want you to hold up your pinky finger. The smallest chameleon is smaller than your pinky finger. That's tiny. On the other hand, the largest is over 2 feet long. That's a big difference, isn't it? Have you ever wished you could be camouflaged and just blend into your surroundings? God created chameleons with the ability to change colors, which helps them blend into their environment. Sometimes they switch colors to show their mood. For example, if they're a darker color, it lets the other chameleons around them know that they are angry. They also change colors as a way of camouflaging themselves so that other animals around them don't eat them. God gave them a way to protect themselves in a most unusual way, didn't he?
He sure did. How about try this? Wiggle your toes. Did you do it? God gave the chameleon 5 toes on each leg, but its toes are not evenly spaced like our toes are. 2 toes are on one side and there's 3 on the other, and they're shaped like a V. This allows the chameleon to grasp at the tree branches or the flowers or the plants that it's on without falling off. God thought of everything.
Camo, our animal pal, sure changes a lot, but our God never changes. The Bible says that God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Camo reminds us that even though animals and people may change in many different ways, we have a God who is unchanging and whose character is the same day after day. God is always great and God is always good.
Indeed, he is. God is always great and God is always good. Hey, Abby, how about a couple of jokes? You do the first one.
Okay. Why did the chameleon wear the same clothes everyone else had on? Do you know? So he could blend in.
Now, here's an exercise joke. Put your thinking caps on. What is a pirate's favorite exercise? Planks. Get it? Well, thank you for today. We've had a wonderful first day. We'll see you again tomorrow from Lagos Baptist Church and from Mystery Island. Bye.